reading Reddit horror stories. We're going to read from the page No Sleep again. As usual, all of our Redditors are going to be credited in the video for their stories. So let's go have a little gander and see what stories we can find today. Okay, this title really engaged me, so if you ever hear a cry for help at night while camping, ignore it. This is from user Horror Mode. So, let's start. I love to camp, but after my most recent trip, I don't think it will ever be the same. I set up my tent on a nice flat ground and collected some wood for a fire. The night came with its all nighty sounds, and I relaxed at the hooting owls and chirping crickets, even better with the fact that nobody else was around. Help! It was subtle. I almost missed it. The voice came from deep within the woods, and for a moment I didn't believe what I was hearing. It sounded female, but oddly enough, I just couldn't tell. Please help, it continued. I shined my flashlight between the bushes and walked around. To be completely honest, even as a grown man, I was paralyzed with fear. So I did the responsible thing and called the local police. Thank God for that. A man with some common sense while camping. That's when things went from odd to very, very weird. The police told me to ignore it. I explained to them that someone could be injured and probably needed medical attention, but they assured me otherwise. When I kept pushing and asked why, they told me, "Sir, if you ever hear that voice again, ignore it, do not respond, and do not approach." Well, I did hear it again, but I didn't ignore it. It was almost midnight when I heard the voice a second time. I awoke to someone whispering, "Help." It sounded like she was just outside my tent. I went out to check and no one was there, but the voice continued from a distance, "Help, please." Again, I grabbed my flashlight and looked around the area I was camping. I was too afraid to follow the voice into the woods, especially since the authorities themselves avoided it, but I struggled morally, trying to decide whether I should go and help this person or listen to the police, who were concerned for my safety. But then I heard another voice, a different voice. The other voice, which also seemed to be coming from the woods, was an octave lower. Unlike the first one, which cried for help, this one was loud and demanding. "Quiet," the other voice demanded. I don't think I'm getting these voice expressions right. No one's going to help you. Once I heard that, I was sure someone was in trouble. I called the police again. When I informed them about the second voice coming from the woods, they seemed even more concerned. They told me that I should pack my things and leave the campsite immediately. They said that hearing the second, more manly voice meant that it was getting desperate. It? Is it a skinwalker? They also said that the two voices were coming from the same person. That part was bizarre and confused me to say the least. It was at this point I dismissed the police in that area as crazy, but not before telling them off. I got angry. I told them that if they didn't get down here to come and check it out, then I would do it myself. I said repeatedly that a woman could be in serious trouble and that it was their duty to help her, but still they refused to come. All they kept repeating to me over the phone was, "Do not enter the woods, sir." They seemed more afraid than I was. Once I hung up the phone, I heard the voices again, a gentle, "Please, somebody help me," and then a growling, "Quiet, no one is coming." It was a little past midnight at that point. I couldn't live with myself knowing that I had the chance to save somebody's life but instead cowered, so I grabbed some things and ventured into the woods. When I entered the woods, the voices ceased. Just like that, no cries, no whispers, and no commands. Even the owls and crickets went away, nothing but dancing leaves and creaking tree branches. I stopped walking and looked around, a full 360 degrees. "Hello? Anybody here?" I called out. Nothing. "I'm here to help," I continued. "Where are you? Are you okay?" Still nothing. I thought of calling the police again. then chuckled to myself. I found it strange but somewhat comforting that I didn't find anyone out there. Nonetheless, I was still creeped out, so I packed my things and finally left the campsite. I didn't know why the police, of all people, were so afraid. Worst case, someone was actually in danger and we've all failed them. Best case, morons who think they can help me in the middle of nowhere is a great idea for a prank. To be honest, when I heard the voice the very first time, I didn't think it was a joke. When I heard it the second time, along with the other voice, I became a bit more concerned. And same with the third time, I heard it in the woods. But when I heard it again, a fourth time, a week after I left the campsite, coming from inside my own house, I became very, very concerned. And that is the end of that Reddit horror story. Again left on a cliffhanger, and there's actually 10 people who are reading the story at the same time as me, so this is getting quite some reach. Yeah, so that was a very well written story. A lot of people seem to love it. It has 700 upvotes, and yeah, great story. Just very quickly, I just want to talk about some of my social media platforms. So on TikTok, we're uploading shorts. On YouTube, we're uploading shorts every week, and on Instagram as well. So whichever platform that you use the most, feel free to follow our pages and keep up on some scary horror news every week. They only take about 60 seconds to watch, so if you're just bored throughout the day, you can have a look at some of those clips, especially if you enjoy the YouTube content. And yeah, we do have a Facebook page as well. I'm trying to start to upload everything on there now. I've really neglected the page. I just don't really like Facebook in general, but it might be a good platform for the channel, so we'll see. Okay, this next story is called Please Don't Let Your Children Go Trick-or-Treating Alone. It was uploaded 1 day ago. Maybe a bit early for a Halloween story, but we'll see. This is from user Totally Not a Werewolf. Don't worry, I believe you. For now. Anyway, so this is the story. It says also in a bubble, child abuse. So if anybody is like, vulnerable to that, or it's gonna trigger, maybe don't listen to this story. But we do have plenty of other Reddit horror videos in a playlist on this channel, so if this isn't a story for you, you can go and watch that playlist. So let's continue. Like most of you, Halloween has always held a special place in my heart. It's a time of year where the veil between reality and fantasy thins and life's unusual rules are suspended for a night of childhood fun. This is a story about those annual nights of candy-fueled mischief, a story that has haunted me for years. I grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody else. Every Halloween, my friends and I would pool together in the ever-changing groups to go trick-or-treating. Friends of friends would show up, unfamiliar faces from the next town over, transient Halloween allies that drifted in and out of our lives like apparitions. There was one kid though. A girl who was more ghost than human. She always wore the same costume every year, a wolf mask, and introduced herself as Spooky. No one knew where she came from or who brought her, but every Halloween, like clockwork, she'd be there, her amber eyes flashing from behind the wolf mask. She had a magnetism that was impossible to resist, a charm that bewitched us all. Spooky was one who introduced us to Trick and Treat, an evolved version of trick or treating, where we'd play tricks even if we got candy. It started innocently enough, toilet paper in houses or ringing doorbells and hiding. The thrill of being a bit naughty was intoxicating, especially under Spooky's spell. I had a bit of a crush on her despite never seeing her without the wolf mask, but she never showed interest in anyone. She was more excited about getting at least one of every kind of candy we got. You got to get the full set, she'd say, making it our unofficial motto. As the years went by, Spooky's tricks began to escalate. The once fun-loving pranks took a darker turn, becoming more malicious. Rocks through windows, trash cans set on fire, pets stolen. It started to make me uncomfortable, but I never said anything, not wanting to disappoint her. When I was 12, I got sick on Halloween. I missed out on that year's festives. I remember how frustrated I was, feeling left out, but that feeling turned to dread the next day when I discovered my friends hadn't come home from trick or treating. An extensive search was launched, days turned into weeks, and hope turned into despair. Finally, they found my friends' bodies in a network of nearby caves, drowned when the tide came in. Spooky, however, was never found. No one in town knew who she was or where she came from. I moved away from that town when I grew up. The memories were too painful. I started a family and tried to put the past behind me, but some specters refused to stay buried. My son, now the same age I was when I used to go trick-or-treating with Spooky, recently brought up Halloween. I found a drawing in his room, a crude sketch of a girl in a wolf mask with the name Spooky scribbled underneath. My heart froze. Was this a coincidence, or was history repeating itself? My son told me one of his friends had introduced him to a new girl, Spooky. He said she had the most beautiful amber eyes. I have decided that my son will not go trick-or-treating alone next year or any year following. I can't help but wonder if Spooky is a real person, a cursed spirit, or the embodiment of Halloween mischief gone too far. But there's one thing that I do know. I won't let my son be claiming by her games, her tricks and treats. I won't lose him like I lost my friends. So remember folks, when Halloween comes around, keep your kids close and always check their candy. You never know what or who might be lurking in the shadows. The allure of the full set can sometimes lead to a very different kind of collection. So that was a really interesting story, and Spooky mentioned about the full set. The full set kind of seemed to refer like the whole group of friends. Someone in the comments seems to agree also, from user a salty llama. From what you're saying, it sounds like since she was sick on the final year, she didn't get the full set, and now she wants your son as a stand-in for you to complete the set. Please watch him carefully in case she tries to trick him into sneaking out on Halloween. If this theory is correct, she's going to be pretty motivated to complete her collection. So yeah, there were some pretty interesting stories today, again from the subreddit page No Sleep. I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to go and check out some of the other playlists that we have on Horror O'Clock. I'm working on loads of different series now. This is just one of them. We have series like Cursed Objects, we have series like Climate Change, Haunted Dolls, so many things. So go check those out if you're interested, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky.